Welcome to Week in Horror.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The only podcast that will feed your horror need.
The need to feed.
With JL.
Yeah, I'm a fucking masochist. I'll watch that shit.
Eugene.
Somebody has to be the sex symbol, I'm sorry.
Alex.
Shit, I just demonetized this forever.
And Johnny O.
How do you like that shit? Got halfway through the monologue before unmuting myself. Golly, it's one of them fucking days.
With industry guests.
Hi, this is Richard Oakes, Director of Host.
Hey, this is Adam Leader, Director of Host.
This is Matthew Mark Hunter.
I'm Don Ellie.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And this is Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
News, trivia, and more.
One by one, we will take you.
Join our live show Wednesdays at 7 Central, youtube.com/weekinhorror, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Week in Horror. Stay scared.
Welcome, horror fans. It's Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, and that means it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, the only podcast that always goes meta with it. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast host, you can join us here for our live show on YouTube, so you too can laugh and scream with us, flex your horror knowledge in live chat, and maybe even win some trivia prizes. This week, we're covering select films released in horror history March 27th through April 2nd. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Aaron, and with me tonight are JL and Eugene.
Good evening, everybody.
What's up, everybody?
So how did he do, Eugene?
Did pretty good. Not bad. Not bad for a first time.
He didn't catch the edit I made to the script, though.
Well, he probably practiced it like all week.
Yeah, I've been working off of a practice one for like 3 days.
Oh yeah, I made it because remember I the little thing we say at the top there, like the only podcast that's, and I made an edit to that so it wasn't the same as last week's, but that's okay. That's all right. It's all good. You did fine. You did really, really good. It's your first time. It's your first time taking lead, so we got to give you we got to give you some shit. It's real. The real test is running the closing plugs. That's where the real test is.
That thing's a freaking marathon.
It really is. You got to prep for it. Like, get your breath. Like,
timing. Yeah, it's all about timing.
Thank you for listening.
Well, welcome everybody. How is everyone doing? Man, it's fantastic. This has been an interesting week. So many huge things coming down the pipe. We just got really cool updates that we have. That we can't talk about yet, which makes me really, really sad because I want to tell everybody about them. But we finally saw some movement and some cool stuff coming up. But I know I keep like teasing everybody that we have these things. But you might, for those who don't know, the film industry moves slowly. So it seems like things are coming out all the time, but all of those things, everything that comes out has been in like production for upwards of 2 to 3 years before it actually gets here. And these things take time, and the wheels don't move as fast as I wish they would. And, but eventually we're going to get there, which I'm really excited to talk about a bunch of stuff. So before we dive into what we've got tonight, let's take a quick chat. And I apologize that we had a little technical delay that delayed us up. So I apologize for being a little bit late. But let's see who is in the live chat tonight. So I see Travis. Oh, yeah. And let's make sure we fire this up so that all of our amazing patrons who helped to make the show possible are down there at the bottom. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So I see we've got Travis Brown in the chat. Good to see you, Travis Brown. Thank you so much for being here. Same with Tony Regime. Travis Brown was first. Tony Regime was second. Good to see you guys. NA's in the house. Another one of our amazing patrons. Thank you so much for being here, NA. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. One of our oldest patrons as well. Appreciate that support, NA. And I see they had a nice long chat going on in there. Rodent, no last name, is in the house. Gabba, everybody. Gabba to you, Rodent. Good to see you. And Raven Dark Stars in the house. Good to see you, Raven. Thank you so much for being here. Ivy Gentry as well. Good to see you. Says hi. Jinju as well. Says hello, everyone. Good to see you, Jinju. Oh, the amazing people. Yep, there's me saying we're going to go live shortly, which, was like 10 minutes later we went, but we got it.
Hey, short is relative.
This is true. Time is relative. Donnie Does That is in the house. Good to see you, Donnie Does That. Thank you so much for being here, bud. And I see as well, Charlie Welch is in the house, who's blaming it on. He says, I never said it was Aaron, but he says it's got to be Aaron's fault. You know what? That's the first time there was a trivia question, and you got it right, Charlie. I think you're on a roll now. Let's see if you can get tonight's. So Charlie Welch, the only man on the internet you never make a bet with. Good to see you, Charlie Welch. Thank you so much for being here, bud. We love seeing you. Tony Regime as well. Thank you so much. And Sarcasm, another one of our amazing patrons. Thank you so much for being here, Sarcasm. And then I see, who did I see? I saw someone. There he is. Mr. Malort is in the house. Good to see you. He says, what the fuck, guys? He says, I don't know, man. What the fuck? What the fuck? It's not a question you should ask me, though. Sarah Velez is in the house. Good to see you, Sarah Velez. Thank you so much for being here. Oh man. I hate it when it jumps on me. And yes, we did get the technical issues. I think we got the technical issues fixed. Aaron is live with audio. I think it was a camera issue is what that was. So I do apologize about that. It's all good. We'll get it sorted out. And oh, dang, it jumped on me again. I hate it when it does that. Yes, Sarah Velez, and another one of our amazing patrons. Thank you, Sarah, for the support. We really do appreciate it. And Sarcasm was playing the Jeopardy theme song. Yep, that's pretty much what it goes. Jinju asks was the technical issue a PEBCAC? And Aaron, was the technical issue a PEBCAC?
No, everything just kind of burnt down at once. Camera went down and the audio went down. I'm surprised they didn't have a full system crash, but I paid a lot of money for something that doesn't work.
Given some of the movies we're talking about tonight, that maybe it's a sign. I don't know. Skitch Crasher's in the house. Good to see you, Skitch Crasher. Thank you so much for being here. And Commander Darklight as well, another one of our oldest patrons. Thank you so much for being here, Commander. It's good to see you. All the way from Australia, by the way. Although I'm pretty sure he is a Kiwi. So thank you, Commander Darklight. Yes, or 7:15 Central. Yeah, I apologize about that. The trick. Yeah, Sarcasm reminds us. The trick is to bang the rocks together, boys, to get it going. This is true. Well, the hamsters died, so we had to go out and get some new hamsters for the internet. Angel Rivera's in the house. Good to see you, Angel Rivera. I do believe, yes. Your shirt should be on its way to you. Teespring has been really wonky with either like really fast delivery or really slow delivery. So hopefully that shirt will be out to you soon. Just, let me know when it arrives to you, because sometimes I get notifications like right away. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it takes a minute for that to catch up. So let me know when that shirt arrives. So Angel won the last trivia that we did at the end. So good times, good times. Gavlar, the Hand of Zod, is back in the house. Another one of our amazing patrons. Good to see you, Gavlar. Thank you so much for being here, bud. One of the coolest fucking names on the internet. I do appreciate it, Gavlar. It's very glad. I'm glad that you were back. It's so good to see you. I'm glad that everything is worked out, and can't wait to see you at the After Dark and Bloodbath, which you have access to. So can't wait to see you there. And who else we got? Oh, there's Aaron. Look, my audio and video crashed. Totally crashed. It's all good. Elizabeth Sylvester's in the house. Another one of our amazing patrons. We are doing good, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being here on, and thank you for the support. We really do appreciate it. Nurse Donnie Dawn is in the house. I think it's the first show for her. Thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate you. Always nice seeing new faces.
Yes. Hi, Dawn.
Aaron Reese says, "Fuck you, Charlie. Just fuck you. I need better friends." That's why you joined us on the show. You see, this is funny because Aaron's redheaded and he's the newest member of the show, so he's the baby. So he's like the redheaded stepchild, which means
I re-dyed it yesterday and everything, and now you can't see how pretty it is. Horrible.
Oh man. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. So many amazing people in the chat, and we have an amazing show for y'all tonight. One thing real quick. I wanted to check with you guys. This past week, I ran across something new. There apparently is a new Resident Evil series in production at Netflix.
Oh, I have mixed feelings. I'm a fan of Resident Evil, especially like the early games. And I do like some of the early movies, like the first one. I think the second one's my favorite. And I do like some of them are guilty pleasures, like Resident Evil Afterlife and stuff like that. But then they came out with the Resident Evil movie late last year. That was not good.
Oh, you're talking about the Welcome to Raccoon City.
Yeah, Welcome to Raccoon City.
You see, and that's because Welcome to Raccoon City, I think, was pretty much made for gamers. It was executive produced by Paul W.S. Anderson, and who's Milla Jovovich's husband. And so it was executive produced by him, but he was not essentially in charge of that. That movie, I think, was made for gamers, whereas the previous ones were pretty much made for, action lovers, zombie lovers, and of course Milla Jovovich lovers. So I think that's pretty much what that was about. It takes a new direction, but the new one was more true to the games. And if you weren't a fan of the games, you probably would have been put off, considering we had over a decade of Milla Jovovich of Project Alice driven Resident Evil films with high action and explosions and all kinds of stuff. So that one, this one was more subdued, more grittier, and more in line with the original Biohazard theme of the original Capcom games. So I actually kind of dug it for that because I'm a huge fan of the game franchise, and I liked where they went with it. Little iffy on the casting, but nonetheless, they were competent.
Yeah, see, I think casting was kind of some of the effects are there's a lot of CGI in terms of the effects on it, and I'm just, and it's not. I mean, it's light and magic level CGI, which obviously that's very, very expensive to afford. But I wish it could have been better. I wish they take the time. I will always be for practical effects all the way. I understand there are certain things that practical effects limits you, but I would rather give up some of those limits than go to CGI, and with CGI blood and some of the CGI creatures, and it's just kind of and so CGI just doesn't age as well. When I'm going back and I'm watching movies from 20, 30 years ago versus movies that came out 10 years ago that are heavy CGI. And it's the heavy CGI is falling short while the movies from the 80s still hold up. They still look exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do. The only movie with CGI that I think has legitimately held up for its age is Jurassic Park. Someone sold their soul to the devil to keep the CGI on that movie as fresh as it is. Because I go back and watch that, and I watch that in high definition and the best possible quality. And that goddamn Brachiosaurus is still fucking seamless. And I looked at that, I was like, what unholy rite was performed to get it looking like that? And in 1996,
no, 94,
no, 93, shit,
yeah,
1993. I was 13 when that movie came out. I am almost, this is almost 30 years later. Okay, I'm about to turn 42. What?
They threw every dollar in Hollywood into that damn movie, though.
I don't know what Spielberg, what he pulled, out of his sleeves. I mean, where he found it. But because occasionally I'll go back and I'll watch it just for the nostalgia, because I still get a little misty eyed when I see that whole dun, 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 and but it's a dinosaur. I still get a little misty eyed when I see that, and I look and I was like, and I'm sitting there watching this thing in ultra high def, and I'm like, this thing is fucking flawless. 30 years later, it is still smoking. So, pulling that off is just, sarcasm's correct. Spared no expense.
Yeah, whoever the post-production supervisor for Jurassic Park was, I know that's not an Oscar category. Well, I think maybe there's special effects or something like that on it. Him. Whoever he is the unsung hero, and he understood CGI on a level that people today don't understand.
There's a box buried at a crossroads somewhere to pay for that.
That's what I'm saying. What kind of ritual to the dark gods was completed who sold their soul? Who said I'm taking one for the team to make this the greatest CGI you've ever seen in your life?
Spielberg's already done that for 20 movies beforehand, so he probably pulled in the first 80.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to Resident Evil. I'm kind of curious. I'm 50-50 on it. The franchise itself launched back in, it was originally 1996, and we had so much of the original Paul Anderson stuff with Mila Jovovich and all it pretty much went from kind of game influence to just heavy duty action, and it really diverged off from the game stuff. But I mean, this is interesting. So it's 8 1-hour episodes. It's helmed by Andrew Dabb of Supernatural. Bronwyn Hughes will direct the first 2 episodes. And let's see. Yeah, okay, so there's a decent pedigree behind it. Some of the stuff, the dogs look pretty badass. I will say that. There's some good images online, and it's set for July 14th, 2022. July 14th, 2022. It says the drama series will explore the dark inner workings of the Umbrella Corporation and the New World Order caused by the outbreak of the T-virus. While with the project in its early stages, the series is expected to incorporate all of Resident Evil's signature elements, including action sequences and Easter eggs.
Well, they did one last year on Netflix, that Infinite Darkness, and it was good, but not much happened. Very few episodes, very little going on, but then again, they did the same thing with Castlevania, and then season 2 rocked. So I'm hoping they were just dipping their toes in, and then on season 2, they're going to turn loose. If they renew.
This is interesting. So they announced the cast, and Lance Reddick. Lance Reddick is playing Wesker. And Lance Reddick, you'll remember him from John Wick. He was the concierge in John Wick. Welcome to the Continental. He was that gentleman. Enjoy, the guy at the desk.
Yeah. I remember him.
I remember first seeing him in the TV show Fringe. He was the head of Fringe, the no nonsense badass head of Fringe division. And I mean, Lance Reddick is badass. Virtually everything I've seen him in. And so Lance Reddick is playing Wesker, and it's got Ella Belinsky, Tamara Smart, Sienna Ogdong, Adeline Rudolph, and Paola Nunez. So other than Lance, probably looks like a lot of new names, except for Tamara Smart. I think I've heard of her before. But it sounds like a lot of new names, except for Lance, and it looks like it's going to be set not near Raccoon City, but in another place. I'm getting echo.
That's from me, probably. Hold on.
I think he'll make a very intimidating Wesker. I think Sarah Velez is correct there. He would make a very scary Wesker. That's an intimidating dude. So I'm curious about it. I really am.
I'm curious. I'm going to watch it anyway, but I'm just kind of managing expectations.
Manage expectations. This is good. Yes, this is a very good point. But that's pretty much. I found that to be interesting. It was like still tapping the Resident Evil ever since the end of the Mila Jovovich franchise, 7 movies. Then we got. Then of course there's a lot of anime films, a lot of animated stuff, and then of course the games as well. And then Welcome to Raccoon City, which I enjoyed, because I'm a mindless Resident Evil fan. I've loved it since Biohazard, since the Japanese versions. And I love what they did with it, just in homage to the gamers. And then, of course, this new franchise. And then, of course, like he was saying, what was the name of the previous one that was released?
Infinite Darkness.
Infinite Darkness. So I'm curious. Like I said, managing expectations. I'll be looking forward to seeing what they do with it. Just to seeing what kind of how much they're willing to put forward into it. Should be good.
All right, cool.
All right. So, what do we got up first?
Yes, we have movies to talk about. So, yes, I've got the first one. Boom. So this is something really, really cool. Everyone in the live chat. Yes, I'm talking to all of you. We are going to try something new tonight. We discussed it on the breakdown when we do our big production breakdown on Sunday. We're going to try something new. And the only reason we're trying this is because this channel is not monetized. This channel makes no money. although YouTube probably makes money off of us. Assholes. But this channel makes no money. So we're going to try something new specifically for our live audience because we really enjoy people joining us for the live show. So I hope you all dig this. This first movie that we're going to talk about tonight is March 27th. It came out March 27th, 2020, and it is called The Arbors. And I do hope that y'all enjoy this because now we're going to watch the trailer.
Remember when we were kids, we used to try to catch snakes and lizards and stuff like that? I just found something. I've never seen anything like it.
It's killing?
Everyone knows everyone around here.
All right. So something really cool there. So The Arbors, directed by Clayton Whitmer, written by Clayton Whitmer and Chelsea Cummings, starring Drew Matthews, Ryan Davenport, Alexandra Rose, and Brody Capra. So this film follows set against a dreary small town. The Arbors follows Ethan Dawns, a reclusive locksmith, struggling to try and keep ties with his younger brother, Shane, and Shane's family. His life takes an unsettling turn after finding a strange creature in the woods, and he captures it, takes it home, and begins to form a strange bond with it as he kind of cares for it. But the creature's true nature is soon revealed, and when it escapes, all chaos ensues, and he's caught himself, and then he finds himself caught between the creature's desire to protect him and the bond that he has there, and the destruction it is causing and the threat to his family. So this was a really, really, really cool movie. I dug this one.
Oh, absolutely.
The beauty of the minimalism, and the fact that it wasn't shot for very much. I think the budget on this thing was like $25,000, and I think they shot it really quick. And
25 days.
25 days for like 25 grand. That includes post-production costs. So what they did was really, really slick, but really where it's at is in the writing and the acting, and of course the cinematography. The film is beautifully shot and has this, this, even in this small little town, this creeping dread, which gives, really, really pushes the themes of isolation and helplessness. And juxtaposes this guy who is a professional locksmith and is very, very good at his job, while he himself is locked in the place that he has chosen to live. So really, really cool themes this one. Not to mention a little bit of Lovecraftian horror there. But I love the themes of isolation and helplessness that really, are pervasive throughout this entire film.
Yeah, that's actually... It's always been kind of an interesting theme to really explore, because usually on some level, people can always relate to isolation, whether it's isolation from, say, your community, isolation from family, isolation in job, isolation in just a number of other different ways, and what people are willing to do to connect with something when you are isolated. Because we are, as a species, we naturally try to find bonds with people and with things. So when you remove, say, people from the equation, when you have somebody who is, say, alone, even, and I'm talking about when they truly feel alone, now, where you can be in a room of people but still feel alone, we look for bonds. We look at the movie Castaway, Wilson the volleyball. That is him looking for that companionship. He has been isolated and he needs something to interact with. And then in the movie, in this case, it's that alien kind of a bug creature that he runs into. That's why he has the need to care for it, because if you take the isolation away from it, he may have just have it pass by and just no big deal. But the fact is, like, I want to bond with something on it. That is always felt something like bonding with something that's destructive has always been kind of Lovecraftian,
right?
Because it's like you have this need to connect with something, and at the same time, that connection is your destruction. So that's always an interesting theme to kind of explore.
Right. And for the primary character, for Ethan, what I found about that is that what we connect with, essentially, in that sense, Ethan has essentially locked himself in this kind of like this vicious cycle, wherein he's connected to, where he wants that connection with other people like that, but he cannot break out of or break away from the chains that have locked him in place to his past. The town itself, the old family home, he doesn't even live at and they show he goes and visits the old family home, and he just can't let it go. And it's sitting there. It's falling apart. It's condemned. It's dilapidated. No one's lived there in decades, yet he can't leave. And for some reason, he's trapped there, or he has trapped himself there. And his brother doesn't understand. His brother's family doesn't understand. On the surface, he's a good uncle, but life moves on. In all appearances, everything around him is decaying, and everything around him is decaying, and everyone is like, we have to go. Life is moving on, and he is unable to do that. And looking for that, he winds up bonding with this thing, which he finds eating like roadkill in the middle of the road one night. And then, brings it home, feeds it, nurses it back to health, and then forms this bond with this thing. And it winds up biting him, and that's essentially how it kind of happens. But in that respect, we don't know what it is specifically. It's not really, we do know that it gets like colossally large the more it eats. But then you have you cross it with the idea that no one else seems to be able to see this thing. And this is one thing I found was really, really interesting. It's hinted at, it's one of those cool stories where it's hinted at that Ethan is not stable, not emotionally stable in that respect. And no one ever really sees this thing except for him. And only when other people are dying, like, when supposedly the government people come in, they all get croaked, but Ethan's the only one to make it. I was just like, there is that possibility that it may not really be there, that this thing is an extension of Ethan lashing out at everyone trying to tell him he needs to move on. But go ahead.
I was gonna say there's one moment where they kind of tease you with it, where he's showing the video, but they never show the screen, and they show the guy watching the screen, but they never verify that he's not just trusting him, that there's something in the box. So it teases you along that way so that you don't wander off and start, dismantling. So good about pacing that way. And it's what he's stuck in too. I would call it a toxic nostalgia. Because it's just, well, things are so great and I should go back to that. You cannot go back. And when you're so focused on the past, you can't think of a better future. So
that was the thing, when he basically tracks the thing back to his old home, because it like literally sets up like nests up in his old family house, which was odd. And I was like, why would he? I mean, and then it alludes to the fact that it bit him, and there's some sort of like deeper kind of psychic connection between the two things. But then when it nests up in his old family house, like, okay, that's straight. I mean, that could be one of two things. And I understand that the one character saw it on the video, but like I said, I don't think that could be 100% confirmed. So I still think essentially what I saw was a monster story where a guy bonds with a monster, but the monster's nature is out of his control, and does that just like, essentially it's the more absurd version of holding, like you said, toxic nostalgia, holding on to things from our past that we know we need to let go of because they keep us entrenched in old hopes or whatever. Or like just like kind of like we can't grow, we can't advance past these things because these things are like anchors holding us back. And
the whole thing that sets it off too is it's not just the bond with the creature, but he's got this whole thing going where at first I thought his brother was maybe an entomologist or something, because he's like, oh, I found this thing, come take a look at it, it's great. And it's not. It's almost like Stand By Me, where it's this curious thing he wants to show his brother to try and create that childlike bond with him.
Right.
And he's still trying to go back to what they were, and it just costs him everything.
And I dug it. See, the whole theme of the baggage you carry with you, that essentially what he's doing, like everything of the past, he's, and essentially his brother's frustration with him, and the way he's bonded with his niece. Is that bond there is like between two kids. It's like he grew up, but he never grew up, which is why he's able to connect with her on that level, but not with his brother and not with his brother's wife, not with his sister-in-law, and not with the girl who was the one that got away, which killed me to watch because, I mean, she's there. And there's this awe, and it's kind of like, I always thought this is like, because we're all grown up, and it's the time for these childish things. She's grown up, everybody's moved on, and he still his dreams are bad. His dreams could come true, and he still can't accept it. And that killed me to watch that. That was harsh. I mean, that was kind of rough.
Yeah, it's basically a segment of his life, and you see it in actual psychology. A segment of his life got stolen away by the events that occurred, because you look at the half blank or the mostly blank yearbook signatures and what he describes them going through, where they basically were on their own, and he couldn't complete that transition out of childhood. And you even see, when you initially see him and his brother, you kind of make the assumption that the other brother is the older one, and he's not. He looks and acts older, but he's younger by a year. So they've switched roles over time, whereas most people in that situation caring for a younger sibling would grow very quickly, and he doesn't. He just buries himself. And that even when he's looking after his niece, she primarily takes care of herself. He's there, but that's about it, because she's the one that kind of passed out on the couch and gets herself up and gets herself ready, and he's still zonked when his brother gets. So he refuses to move on, and I think the house was great symbolism, because you can tell from the outside it's rough, but it's almost quaint from within. It's trash. It's just rotten and falling apart, and that's really what his dream. Big shining thing for him, but it's just gonna kill him.
Right.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why I did really enjoy it, because it allows you to think and explore ideas like this. Like it's much more than just a creature feature on it, where you actually really dive in psychology. And this has really have become the trend in about the last, say, 6 or 7 years, where we've talked about some of these horror movies like The Monster, where you were exploring relationships with people, and then the creature, monster, or whatever it is usually a catalyst, or it's symbolic as a part of this. The toxic nostalgia, the toxic relationship between a mother and a child. It allows you to really dive deeper, instead of just like okay, well, this creature's just going to go randomly kill people. Some of those films are great. I enjoy some of those creature features. They're fun. But I've really been enjoying this trend of, it's like, well, let's explore characterization through a monster.
Right. And I dug that. And it's that, seeing that kind of, and that's what made this one resonate so well. And I think in the kind of post-Hereditary, post-Witch, post-Midsummer horror world, this is where it really, I think, is where the best horror lies. And obviously, we've talked at length in previous episodes about characterization. It's important to have characters that you at least care about, depending upon the genre you're going to. Even in a slasher film, it really, really helps, because when we care about the characters, then we are more invested, and it helps us die. It helps us kind of suspend that disbelief, because we either fall in love with them, or we hate them, or we hate to love them. And I saw, and maybe it's because I myself, I identified quite a bit with Ethan and Ethan's struggles, and holding on to things of your past, the things that make you feel comfortable. And in this most extreme example, like looking for any kind of rung on the ladder to keep yourself, or just anything, or any kind of the last rope to keep your head above water, because his family's about to move away. The girl that got away, she's going. Everything is just falling apart. The house is never going to get rebuilt. And here he is with this last rung, and there's this interesting thing that doesn't judge him, doesn't demand anything of him, and doesn't seek to change who he is, but accepts him for who he is. And that kind of like, I'm seen for who I am, and not what everybody wants me to be, or everybody thinks I should be. And he finds that one little bit of acceptance that he hasn't gotten in so long, that he immediately latches onto this thing, despite its horrifying nature. And this speaks, I think, to everybody. I think to anyone would dig this one. It is a deep and dark and brooding meditation on the things that hold us back, and how we are often, how some people are often willing to destroy themselves to hold on to the things that give them some comfort. We will end up sacrificing ourselves or sacrificing others just to feel safe and feel seen, which is it's a wild ride that descends into absolute bonkers craziness. When he's finally put into the ultimate position, and everything is laid out in front of him, and he has a choice he has to make. I don't want to because we have the moratorium on this. I don't want to spoil too much about the film because it's really, really good. And I see that we have some spider fear because the thing in the trailer had many legs, and the fact that it gets rather large when it's going. But yeah, this was an intense little film, and it gets under your skin, and I think it's just the right kind of stuff. Where we're at like right now, I think is perfect. So without spoiling too much, I think everybody should go and watch this thing. It's really, really awesome. So yeah, I do want to go ahead.
I was going to just say really quickly, give it the chance because it doesn't look like a high budget because it's not, but if you give it 10 minutes, it will latch on to you.
It's shot extremely well, very, very competently for what they had to work with. And this all goes to knowing your equipment, knowing what you have to work with, planning everything out in advance, knowing how everything is going to look in your mind, a director with a good vision, producers that support him, and competent actors that understand the story that is being told. The acting in this is top notch. It almost felt like I almost would have thought like the lead actor was separate from everybody else, so that he didn't have those bonds that naturally form during the rehearsal process and the building process, and everybody's developing their characters, and we're all sitting at table reads. Except for the brief conversations, I would have thought that they were kept separate because it's there between everybody else. Everybody else has that natural camaraderie, that natural flow that like we've known each other for a while. We're familiar, but he's not really familiar with anybody except for the niece. But even then, it's more childlike. So it's really interesting how they approached it, and especially for for a budget of $25,000, I was deeply impressed with what they pulled off. But that reminds me.
I mean, and that's incredible. And this is what showcases where when you're working with a limited budget, then you focus on the things that you can do well, because you can find actors for cheap. You can with getting the right location. Some of these mostly in the middle of nowhere. You're able, if maybe they have a buddy who owns that house or something like that they're able to dress up in some of these other locations that they can have quick access to. This is an excellent use of utilizing your resources, because I guarantee you they weren't able to pay the actors a lot. They weren't able to pay. They're probably a very small crew. You weren't able to pay as you normally would with some of these big locations and all this other kind of stuff, but really making use of what you have. Because even that spider, that CGI is probably the most expensive part of the film. They
didn't go overboard with the monster because they knew that they weren't going to be able to blow it out of the water. So they teased you, and they did it very effectively. So you only see this and that, and you're left wondering.
Yeah.
Shadow, just a leg in the corner,
or like crawling back into the box or coming down out of the rafters, and a lot of really freaky imagery. If you are arachnophobic, I do not recommend this film. Even if you are, I do recommend it because immersion therapy, occasionally works. But
watch it 20 times in a row.
It is an intense one, both on an emotional level, as you're basically walking through this journey with Ethan, and of course on the monster itself, which leaves more questions unanswered than possible. Those are the best monsters, to be perfectly honest. But I do want to ask the audience, given the nature of the creature in this thing, what is y'all's favorite bug horror film? Horror film with like bad insects, big insects, small insects, swarms of insects, evil insects, spiders, whatever. What is y'all's favorite bug horror film? Let us know down in the comments below or in the live chat, or of course at weekinhorror@gmail.com. I see we have some new people that jumped in tonight. That came in. I see Mystique is in the house. Mystique Tina Jones, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Says Peek Alert. Peek Alert back to you. Thank you so much for being here. And I see... No, that's you, Aaron. I see H. Jasper E., another one of our amazing patrons, says, hey, all, Aaron, Eugene, JL. Hey, H. Jasper, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Fantastic. And Sir Little Wolf is in the house. Aru to you, too. Thank you so much. And I thought I saw Noon. Yep, there he is. And the Jordan Zed is in the house. Good to see you, Jordan. Thank you so much for being here, bud. Really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. We do have some love here. Yeah, Tony Regime agrees. The monster you can't see is always scarier than the one you can, which is why Jaws was fucking terrifying. You didn't see the shark until like the third fucking act. really see the shark until the third act, and then Brody gets to give his badass line. It's kind of like shit. But I'm telling you, when I first saw it, that movie came out, and it still gives me chills because I'm not big on the ocean. I mean, I like going to the ocean. I like going to the beach. I don't like going out far, and I see people going out like really far, and I'm like, what are you doing? Do you have any idea what's out there with you? And they're like, nothing's going to happen. I'm like, that's exactly when shit happens. So, but with that opening scene when the girl's in the water out by the buoy, and I'm like, oh, you dumb bitch, what are you doing?
She's just swimming in the ocean. That's it.
I'm like, oh, I feel so bad. And then that first hit, and you're just like, oh, and you never see it happen. So yeah, I'm a deep water. The scary water I can't see the bottom of is very creepy to me, and so I don't go out very far in the ocean. I actually was swimming once out in Fort Myers, and I kicked something. I don't, probably a fish. I don't know what it was. But I kicked something, and then I was the fuck out. And I was like, nope, we're done. We're done here. I was in Hawaii one time and went swimming. I'm out there, probably out about 30, 40 yards swimming. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 50. I was good distance. It was farther than usual, but the water is nice and clear, and it's warm, and it's gorgeous. It's Hawaii. So I was swimming, and then all of a sudden the alarms on the shore start going off. And then and then I hear the voice come over, and the people are like walking out of the water, and like I'm like, oh wow, what's going on? And then all of a sudden I hear shark, like over the loudspeakers, and I'm like, are you shitting me? And so I look around, and I'm the furthest one out. I'm like, this is great. Turn around, start swimming slowly into shore. Realize that the shark is somewhere in between me and the shore, and I'm like, this is fantastic. This is just, second day in Hawaii. This is how it ends. But I made it to the shore. Everything was good. But apparently it was a hammerhead of decent size, which is why they called everybody in. But I never did see it myself.
Well, because also on top of that, like, you're in your world. They have every advantage. They're stronger than you. They are faster than you. They are hunt. If it's between you and a shark, you are going to lose.
Yes, exactly. You suddenly, when you realize when you're in the water with a predator, that's just when you're in the water with a shark, and you see it, and you're kind of like, you realize just how out of your element you are. You're just like, I swim, and I don't care who you are. You ain't shit. And
it's like they're always like, punch a shark in the nose. It's like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to remember to do that when I'm getting chewed on and drowning at the same time?
The sucker's coming at me at 15 knots. You think I'm going to remember to punch it? They're like, oh, come on, dude. Yeah, just punch through the water. I've actually heard bite. I've actually heard if the shark gets on you to bite its nose. That's actually better because trying to punch through water is really a pain in the ass. Yeah. So I've heard bite it on the nose, but bite the shark's nose.
Yeah,
you're biting. I'm gonna bite you. I'm just gonna bite the shark. What the fuck? Oh, let me see. So we got some other bug horror love. I see. We got the Fly remake with Travis Brown. Says yes, the one with Jeff Goldblum. Fantastic stuff. Oh god, that movie was so gross. In the words of Deadpool, oh, so gross. Sarah Velez, Arachnophobia, fantastic. Ivy Gentry brings up Them. Yes, Them was a fantastic one. Love giant I think that was giant ants.
Yeah, it was giant ants.
Yep, giant irradiated ants. Love big, and you realize how nasty an ant is when it's like 12 or when it's like 8 feet long. So really, Jared R. Human. Good to see you, Jared R. Human. I think it's the first time Jared's been here. Thank you so much. Love seeing new faces. Says, does Tremors count? Not really.
Yeah.
Worm thing?
Is it a serpent or is it a worm?
I'm not really sure. It's only they're graboids. That's what they are. Wrote it no last name brings up Eight-Legged Freaks.
Love
yes.
Eight-Legged Freaks.
Did you know that Frank Welker did all the voices for the spiders in that?
That's a
the
good
spiders
job.
had voices. The spiders had vocalizations, and Frank Welker did all this voice, which is hilarious to me. So Frank, the legendary voice actor Frank Welker, we're gonna need you to do spider voices. Oh, you got it, man. Not a problem at all. Yeah, no sweat. I got it. It's like, okay. Yes, The Fly does count. Absolutely. Oh, Angel Rivera brings up Squirm, 1976. Yes, the flesh-eating worm. Worm one with Worm Man. I saw that one when I was a kid. It was so fucking weird because it's like the worms get in him. He thinks he's a worm, starts acting like one. It was like that was super strange. But yes, and then the scene where the worms like jumping up at the ceiling trying to get those. That was like worms can't do it. Well, no, these are special worms. They can do it. Tony Regime says Starship Troopers because the arachnids. Absolutely.
Yes. Starship Troopers is one of my all-time favorite movies to the point I have a long sleeve shirt on, but I do have the Death from Above tattoo that they get in the film. Because we're going to fight and we're going to win.
You're such a nerd. As I glance around my office.
Life-size Jason statue.
Oh, that was a business expense. Shut up. Gablar Hand of Zod brings up Big Ass Spider. I will tell you this. Mike Mendez, he brought out Big Ass Spider, and I fucking love this movie. One, it's cheesy and it's so B movie, but it's fantastic. It's got Ray Wise, Claire. I can't remember her name. She was Glory in Buffy. I can't remember her last name. And then
Kramer,
Claire Kramer. And then the guy from Heroes, the guy who played I think Matt the cop in Heroes. He was the lead dude, and he was the exterminator in it. And Lynn Shay in a little bit part. But what was hilarious, I have rarely seen a movie open up as awesomely as Big Ass Spider did. Because the opening of the film is like devastation and destruction, and like it looks like war is going on. And then it's him, and he picks himself up in the middle of all of this. And he's looking around, it's all slow motion. Military's out there firing in the air, and it's just all chaos and fire, and he's just like looking around all slow. And the Pixies is set over this. Where's My Mind is set over this. The Pixies cover. Yeah. And I was like, this is amazing. And then he's just like walking through the destruction, like looking up. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? And it's just like, and there's a big ass fucking spider on the tower, on like the skyscraper. And I'm like, I'm sold. He got me right
hooked.
there.
Hooked. I'm
hooked.
You got me.
I'm hooked.
Good movie.
Mendez fucking crushed it when he did that. I love Big Ass Spider. Great stuff. Oh man. So, Sarah Vela says, I'd have been that dumb bitch because I love swimming in the ocean. Oh, God420's in the house. Good to see you. Another one of our amazing patrons. Thank you so much. He also brings up them. Ants are really freaking cool. Yes, they absolutely are. So, Jinju brings up Laverantula, which I think was a sci-fi movie.
Yes. So I came across a trailer like 2 days ago, and it's free on YouTube, and I've already saved it, so I'm gonna watch it later. And it stars the entire cast of Police Academy.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, I'll have to check this out.
Yeah, so the Police Academy fighting giant lava shooting spiders.
Nice. And I see we got Deadly Spawn. Wrote it no last name. Brings up Deadly Spawn. Was surprisingly effective. There was one with bees. I think it was the killer. I think it was the killer or the swarm. I think it was the swarm. Yeah. The swarm or deadly. I can't remember which one. Slugs. So Little Wolf brings up Slugs. Was also a good one. Slugs was pretty nasty. And Wrote it no last name brings up Slither, which I think Slither is badass, and I love Slither. It's in the vein of like Night of the Creeps. And I really, really dug Slither. Nathan Fillion is fantastic.
On that's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks, Michael Rooker. Everybody was fantastic in that. And I loved James Gunn. And James Gunn did a magnificent job on that. And plus, if you look closely in Guardians of the Galaxy, in the Collector, in the mid-credit scene, in the Collector's room, there is one of the Slither slugs in his collection in that scene, which I thought was pretty cool. That was pretty neat. Raven Darkstar brings up Empire of the Ants, Mosquito, Swarm, 70s and 60s. So yes, the 50s and the 60s were like the epic time of giant, basically irradiated like monsters. So anything big that came from radiation in the post World War II, because you pretty much started like radiation could mutate things and make things look weird. So what if we irradiate like animals and make them huge, and you get shit like Night of the Lepus, and of course, what are you laughing at?
Night of the Lepus is the best title ever, because what it turns out it's a leaper. All right, it leaped all over the damn place.
And Jinju brings up Food of the Gods, which is one I was just about to mention, about the island that has all the giant animals on it. So yeah, really, really, really cool stuff. All right, so on to our second one. Eugene, go ahead and give him the title, and I will drop the trailer.
Okay. So next, we're talking about the film Black Sheep, which was released March 29th, 2007. You need to see this.
Miles from civilization.
I have a dream for the future.
A secret experiment has given birth to a new breed of fear.
Bloody animals.
Oh, my lord!
There's something wrong with the sheep. They attacked us.
Oh, nonsense.
What the hell's he doing? What are you doing in here?
You wouldn't understand.
What's that noise?
Somebody's shearing.
Oh God, no. Get ready for the violence.
We're trapped.
Of the lambs.
The sheep are revolting.
Aren't they?
Oh no.
Black sheep.
There's something in here.
I fucking love this movie.
So that's Black Sheep.
It's that tagline. Get ready for the violence of the lambs. It just sells it, man. Just sells it.
When that's your tagline, you know exactly what you're going for on it. And so Black Sheep, directed by Jonathan King, and it stars Nathan Meester, Danielle Mason, Peter Feeney, Tammy Davis, Glenn Levestein, Tandy Wright, and Driver. And basically, in a nutshell, you have some genetically altered sheep and they attack people. And shit gets real.
Shit gets so real.
You know exactly what you're getting into. Like, listen, some fucked up sheep, and they're gonna fucking kill some people. Let's just go.
And there's so much, and what's brilliant. Elizabeth Sylvester says, "What the fuck? I've never seen sheep like that. No thanks. Nope. And of course, Commander Darklight says, and George says, "Oh my God, there was actual sheeple." And Commander Darklight says, "Only in New Zealand." So this one, I love this one because, and it's interesting that someone brought this up. Tony Regime says it reminded me of early Peter Jackson, and Weta worked on this, and Weta effects, which is amazing that they got, which is why it looks so good, and all the practical effects look amazing. A little tiny bit of CGI in this, but predominantly it was all practical effects. The giant were sheep at the end was all practical, brilliant stuff. But I mean that scene, if anybody was wondering, and I have to bring this up because it's ripe with jokes when you see that he throws something in the weresheep's face and it like burns it, and it's like and it's like all smoky shit. It threw mint julep at him, or like mint jelly, like in his face. It was like mint, and it burned him. So it's absolutely brilliant stuff. But I absolutely love this movie, and what's great about it is that it's exactly what you expect. No holds barred. Sheep are eating people. They're turning people into like zombie sheep people and giant were-sheep. And then, of course, like Eugene says, shit gets real. This right here is the simple joy of horror comedy, and why these two go together like peanut butter and chocolate, man, or peanut butter and jelly. It's just brilliant shit.
And it walks a nice line, because they think you have to do parodies now. People want to, push it in the direction of scary movie to make a funny horror movie. And those just aren't really that good. I mean, they're not even horror movies most of the time. But when you take something like this, where it's just serious enough, just funny enough to work together, that it's just absolutely perfect, because there are a lot of horror movies out there that are funny for all the wrong reasons. So when you do it intentionally, like, it's the best thing for just, having a beer, and depending upon the legality of other substances in your environment, enjoying a few other things, just sitting down, because the one-liners in this they're freaking amazing. Yes. On it. Well, fuck the sheep. Hell, no time right now.
And it hints at that. It was like, what are you doing? He's like, you wouldn't understand. It's like, what the? They go all out. They definitely go out. It's definitely in the vein of early Peter Jackson, where nothing is off limits in this. And I do like it because what we talked about before, Australian horror or New Zealand horror, essentially Ozploitation horror. And the reason it comes off so differently is, I think, it's the cultural differences, how Aussies and Kiwis deal with, and even Tassies, how they deal with stress. So you put there's a different kind of American ideology that comes with dealing with stressful situations, and you expect kind of like how Americans will react. They either run and they scream and they hide, or they just go they flip out and they just go like Matthew McConaughey, Rain of Fire, that kind of shit. But it's the way they do it. They deal with it in stride, and that's why I like it. No matter, the sheep are going, and everybody's keeping their cool. Nobody's freaking out. Everybody's, is like, okay, we'll just deal with this. We'll just deal with this. This is one more thing we got to deal with. You see it in Wormwood, Road of the Dead. You see it in like Undead. You see a number of Ozploitation films. And that's why I really enjoyed this one, because you get to see how other people's like, no, it's okay. So the sheep are mutating people into like zombie sheep people. Okay, great. So we'll just deal with this shit as it's coming along. And that's what makes it so much funny. But that's why it works, is because it takes the comedy very seriously. It knows its audience. It takes the comedy seriously, but it also takes the horror seriously, because this film is super fucking graphic. Like, really, really nasty. It's gross in some respects.
So I don't know oh God, the thing that I lost it every time one of the sheep started chewing on somebody, because they, like you said, the special effects were amazing, but it's just like, a sheep's mouth doesn't do that. Don't ask me how I know that. Damn it.
How do you know that?
We have a long family tree. No, just move on.
Have I never explained why my hair is so curly? You don't know that.
Why do you think I dye it red?
But that's why I love this one so much. It's the simplicity of it. You have it's very, very basic. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and you can sit down and enjoy it. And I like going back and watching movies like this. It's movies like this, movies like Shaun of the Dead. Not that they're foreign, but in the sense that they do horror comedy right. Because even horror comedy, you can screw it up if you don't take one of the two seriously. And somebody was bringing up something comparative. It was Raven Darkstar brought up Lawmageddon. So Lawmageddon, super, super cheap movie, but still funny, because it doesn't take itself seriously, and it's not meant to. I mean, it's like Velocipaster. Okay, so you don't take Lawmageddon seriously, but it does its best for the budget to do the horror as best it can. And that's what's important, which is why those movies work. That's what can make a horror comedy so bad it's good, is if you at least take your genres seriously. But if you end up like trying to be funny and then parodying the other one, then you kind of lose that, because we need the laugh with the horror in order to blend the two together. And this one does it perfectly. And plus, beautifully shot. It's against the back. It's shot on location in New Zealand. WiH effects was the best thing they could have gone with to make the monsters go. Not to mention, it was funny as shit. Absolutely adored this one. Every single character was spot on, especially the dude who had the gun, because he winds up being like the badass Kiwi who's got the gun and he's going to handle everything, and he winds up getting mutated as well. So it's hilarious shit. Sarcasm says next bloodbath, Llamageddon versus Black Sheep. We may have to look into that.
That's actually not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea. But it's a simple joy of horror comedy, and this one hits it on all cylinders. And surprisingly, not a ton of people knew about it. I think that's simply because marketing out of New Zealand and Australia, same with Australian horrors, unless you're a diehard horror fan, you're not really going to come across it. This one didn't see a huge theatrical run. And I remember I picked it up. I think I briefly heard about it, saw the trailer, and then didn't get a chance to see it until I found it on DVD. And I grabbed a copy, and it was like, this is definitely going in my collection because it's beyond hysterical. And someone said it was actually that Llamageddon was funnier. I'd have to disagree. Black Sheep was way funnier just because the effects were better and the way cinematography where they were capturing the sheep. Because you see a sheep and you're like, it's a fucking sheep. It's there. Like those shots. Like he's looking at sheep, he's like, oh, and he's like, and the sheep are just like staring at him as like bloody animals. And then it attacks him. And that's what makes it hilarious.
It's like, what does a menacing sheep look like exactly?
What does a menacing sheep look like?
You're trying to tell which herd is which, and it's not like you can tell by the expression on their face. They're just dead fake. Yeah, and it's nice that the comedy it's a little bit dry. It's not like American where it's slapstick and all over the place. So it's got that going, and then the fact that the people, like you said, and New Zealand attitude, this shit happens, and you should not be reacting in the way that these people do. This should be like, get me a boat, I'm getting the fuck off this island, and they're just like coasting along, just dealing with it.
I love the granny in the back. I love the granny in the back with the shotgun. That shit was fucking fantastic.
Fucking takes off half that guy's head, and it's just like, yeah, he's not a man anymore. Fuck him. It's like, damn, lady.
Absolutely hysterical. And also, these ones are fun, and I dig these because it simply, I would say, and I'm not trying to compare like that, but along the vein of Stephen King horror, is turning the innocuous is. Oftentimes, the fun or the terror, or both, can be found in turning the innocuous things into something scary. And that's what I dug about this, despite the fact that it's laugh out loud funny and it's super, super gross and violent and gory. Sheep is what you brought up, Aaron. It was perfect. It was perfectly said. It's sheep. It's like they're not scary. Anybody who's dealt with them, the most is they can be a handful when you're trying to shear them. Which, by the way, there's a YouTube channel where there's a woman who shears sheep, and she, does videos of it. Actually, it's kind of interesting, but they're really not, they're placid animals. They're just they're not dangerous like cows. Cows are dangerous. Sheep are not dangerous. They're not. They're, and then they get too much wool, they can't move. So it's kind of like, okay. But now all of a sudden they're ripping people apart and eating their entrails, and there's weird mutant baby sheep running around. And all kinds
that damn thing looked like a sewer rat, man. The second I saw that thing, I knew exactly who did the special effects because I never looked behind it before I watched the movie.
Oh, there was
I want to be surprised.
There was definitely some Sumatran rat monkey inspiration in that.
Oh yeah.
But this is what's fun. Is what's fun about it, and I wanted, essentially, this is also where practical effects take the cake over CGI. The only real CGI that was in it was during some brief transformation scenes. Otherwise, everything was practical effects, and you can rely on WiH to do some of the best stuff. They, obviously, WiH was behind. Everybody knows WiH was behind Lord of the Rings. And everything that they did with that one, WiH Workshop does amazing stuff. And by the way, WiH, named for a giant fucking like cricket thing, or like Katie did species.
Don't hold your hand up like that. Say a giant fucking and expect cricket to come out.
It's like, well, the thing is, like, I think that they're like this big. You know, they're like huge, and that's what their workshop is named after. But they do amazing work, and that's why I think the were zombie, the big giant wares, the were sheep at the end, the sheep monster, whatever the fuck it was at the end was fantastic and just looks great. And of course, yes, Extra J is in the house. Is there a were sheep movie out there? Yes, there is, sir, and we are talking about it right now.
Black Sheep. Check it out.
But really good stuff. I super dug this one. For anyone who loves horror comedy, for anybody who loves practical effects, practical zombie effects, and then of course laugh out loud hysteria. I mean, it's a romp. The whole damn thing is. So, and I wish the trailer showed more because there's so much more in the movie that is not in the trailer. So it's an absolute treat. I dig this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely check it out. It's fun. It's hilarious. You'll love it. But yeah, definitely. But actually, I want to ask the audience, what is your favorite B horror film? Not the top standard or the fun stuff or anything. Well, I mean, B films can be fun also. But what is your favorite just B horror? What film is like, listen, we got low budget, we're gonna take an animal, we're gonna have it kill some people, and we're just gonna have a good old time.
I dig this. I dig this one, and it's definitely in the vein of B film. B films, classically, for those who aren't familiar, the B film back in the 50s, when films were released in double features, there was an A film and the B film. The A film was the film that showed first at the drive-in, and then the B film followed up after. One of the biggest stories of A films and B films was that the Blob with Steve McQueen, the original one, 1958, was originally a B film. But it outperformed the A film that it was paired with, and eventually it was swapped, and the Blob became the A film on that. And what I love about B movies is that B movies do not try to overdo themselves on exposition. The plot is usually very, very simple. There's typically a hero. There's an established hero, established group, and these individuals have to overcome some sort of tremendous odds. And they eventually do it through creative ways, and then the day is saved. It's classic format, classic good versus evil storytelling, and usually puts in really, really interesting stuff. So and that's why I love the vein of this. Is very similar to Peter Jackson's early stuff. Is definitely B horror schlock films, and it takes a lot of inspiration from that, like Peter Jackson's first movie, Bad Taste, or of course Dead Alive, which takes a lot of inspiration from his early work.
Well, and there's a very good reason why the B film had a very simple plot, is because by the time it got to that at a drive-in with teenagers, they needed to be able to engage in extracurricular activities and still be able to go home and tell their parents what happened. Because the parents would say, "What did you see?" "Well, we saw."
I think that was a positive consequence of the B film.
Yeah. I think they ran with it after a while, though.
So some of the recommendations we have in here. Let's see what we've got. Commander Darklight brings up Peter Jackson's first movie, Bad Taste. Absolutely, that movie is hilarious and super and just so gross. God 420 says Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus, which I believe was an Asylum film, and one in there was a franchise of Mega Shark movies. But also definitely in the B film vein. Invasion of the Bee Girls, says Jinju. Gavilar the Hand of Odds brings up Zombievers. Don't get me started. Okay, I see that, absolutely, but don't get me started on Zombievers. I actually had a back and forth on Twitter with a guy, with a horror critic who writes freelance for Screen Rant and other websites, who legitimately tried to convince people that Zombievers was better than Shaun of the Dead.
Hipster all the way.
Was he trolling people?
I have no idea, but I have no, and I didn't even. Someone sent me the article. It was an article of the 20 greatest horror comedies of all time, and I understand that horror is subjective. That loving a particular thing is subjective. But when you're talking about the greatest of all time, okay, and he said he whittled it down from a list of 50. I think he started with 50 and he whittled it down to 20. I'm sorry, dude. Writing, acting, directing, cinematography, thematic elements, everything about Shaun of the Dead definitely overpowers Zombievers. I understand that Zombievers was funny, and it is funny. It's a funny movie, but it's B movie schlock is what it is. It's TNA and puppet zombie beavers, and I get that. That's great. But Shaun of the Dead is a horror comedy that is amazing. It is amazing. Edgar Wright,
it's an A comedy.
Yeah, exactly. And but he also had movies on there that weren't like he put American Psycho on there, which wasn't even a horror comedy. So I have no idea. But it was weird. But Zombievers bring up. It's a funny movie, and I get it absolutely. It just Zombievers. I was so mad about that. I tweeted at him, was like, really, dude, you could have done just a little. Come on, the horror community deserves better. Sarah Velez brings up It, the Terror from Beyond Space. Sir Little Wolf brings up Zombies. That was the one with the animals in the zoo that turned into zombies as well. I saw a recent one myself, or actually Angela made me watch. It was Aquarium of the Dead. That one had a giant zombie octopus in it.
There's a whole spring up of the Dead movies. They came up in the 80s and then back again after The Walking Dead hit big.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. And the Jordan says Leprechaun, Killer Tomatoes, both great. Gavlar Henazad brings up The Tingler. And then, of course, Sarcasm brings up Zombie Strippers with Robert Englund. Absolutely. That was on the Daily Splatter recently. Tony Regime, Bad Taste, and Brain Dead are in a tie for first for me with the Revenge of Billy the Kid is fun. Revenge of Billy the Kid is pretty insane. Chris Durham says The Thing in the Haunted Cave. Our thing is the Thing from Haunted Cave, and then, of course, The Brain That Wouldn't Die. Definitely. Fantastic stuff. Oh, and Sarah Velez brings a Fiend Without a Face. All kinds of fantastic stuff. B movies are fantastic, but if you have another favorite one, leave it in the comments below. Of course, hit us up at weekinhorror@gmail.com.
All right. So next up, we have The Blackcoat's Daughter, written and directed by Oz Perkins.
Script. Check your script.
Did you rewrite on me?
No, it's the same as always been.
Trailer.
Oh, yeah.
And the Georgia says, American Psycho is a horror comedy like Seven is a fucking musical. Very true. Oh, yes. Raven Darkster says House. The original House. Absolutely. Oh, and The Stuff. Definitely. All right. But, Blackcoat's Daughter. Y'all enjoy the trailer.
When you meet these people, do you say that she was murdered? Do you say that they had to do a blood test to see if her head matched the body?
Hey, Dad, just calling to see where you and Mom are, if you're coming.
Worst case, they come on Friday and everyone goes home and has a really nice break. After all, we can't let you live here.
You do know about the sisters, don't you? They worship the devil.
Catherine, is there something wrong?
Why are you doing this?
Do you believe in God, Joan? Ever tried to look for him? I look for him in the unlikely things that happen. Little coincidences.
Diddle, diddle, Blackcoat's daughter, what was in the holy water? Gone to bed on unclean bed, the angels they forgot her.
There's something funny. You smiled a little.
Funny? No. Why? I mean, I just wish you could stay and see my performance. That's all.
Super creepy one.
Nice.
All right, Blackcoat's Daughter, written and directed by Oz Perkins, who's actually the son of Anthony Perkins, Psycho fame, and starring Emma Roberts, Kiernan Shipka, Lucy Boynton, James Remar, and Lauren Holly, and produced by A24. Story of two girls, Catherine and Rose, trapped at a small boarding school with terrifying evil during the winter months. Third girl, Joan, also features heavily, though it's not immediately obvious how she factors in because it's done in a nonlinear fashion and it jumps back and forth over a period of. Okay. So this one was one where I watched it and I thought it was okay, but it didn't blow me away until about 30 minutes after I finished it and I put it together. And I was like, wait a damn second. But yeah, it's actually, once I kind of really thought it hit me and I started, weaving that web between everything that happened, I've got to say, it's definitely worth the watch.
This one was definitely have to say, much like the Arbors that we talked about previously, this one is definitely a creepy, atmospheric horror film. Whereas unlike the Arbors, where the Arbors is essentially the depths of characters juxtaposed against this very, very bleak background, where it's like where everything is wet and decaying like this. Here, it's set amongst a Catholic school school, where there's kind of like Catholic boarding school that's like way out of the way, and everything is in typical Catholic fashion. Everything is very stark, so everything is in its place. Everything is orderly. It's simply how you would. It has that kind of order that you would expect. Whereas all of the chaos is occurring amongst the characters themselves, and the power in that allows you have everything in the forefront, and you're able to walk along the kind of very, I would say, the depth and pathos of the characters here. Everyone has their own unique story and how they all blend together and how everybody is kind of infused into each other with the events that take place when the girls are stuck there at the school. And then, of course, Emma Roberts' character, her story as it follows into it. This one came out so long ago, we don't want to spoil too much because it came out 2017, even though it was made in 2015. It saw its festival release in 2015, but it didn't see wide release until 2017. And in this particular one, this one got me very much in the sense that you can see things falling apart before they do, and recognize that not everyone sees it beforehand. And I honestly thought that at first that this was very much is it in her head or is it legit? And that's where I thought it was going. And then the movie kind of kept me off balance. I wasn't able to tell. I mean, at first I was like, oh, it's in her head. This is what's happening to her and nobody seems to be noticing it. Unchecked mental illness in that respect. But then it hints at other things. It was wait, no. And then it brings you back. And I love that it kind of keeps you off balance. Not to mention Rose's story with what is going on between her and her boyfriend. And then, of course, Joan and her trip and her road trip with the hitchhiking and the people that pick her up. Really, really intriguing stuff. But I love it because it's all, once again, just like the Arbors, all in the characterization. It's all in their depth, all in their pathos. And I love the slow burn as you're heading for real tragedy. And you can't stop it.
Yeah, I erred on the side, which, without giving too much away, there are signs within it that make me think that it was legitimately demonic. You kind of have to get to the end before, like I said, it all pieces together. But the poor girl, if you look at it, there's something wrong with her from the beginning. And I have a feeling it's to do with her father, because a Blackcoat is a primarily pejorative term for a priest, clergyman. And her father is extremely severe and extremely absent, and they treat the girl like she's fragile before any of this starts. So you go into it, and expecting there to be some oddities, and I think that's really what sets the trap for the people in the location is they expect her to be odd, but so it doesn't jump out at them that something is extremely wrong and that they should do something. And they kind of pay for patronizing her in that way. Oh, she's just being her odd little self. No, she's not.
No, she's not.
No, it's so much worse.
I love the ambiguity. I dig the ambiguity of that. I like supernatural. I mean, so and the George said he never cared for religious horror. Even classics like Exorcist made me roll my eyes when they lean on the demonic presence trope. I don't know. It's hard for me to take supernatural seriously. What I dig about movies like this and what they really speak to me is essentially what the kind of ideology, what religious ideology does to people, and it's very, very real, which is what brings movies like this home to me. The events that take place in this film are absolutely grounded in reality. There's nothing supernatural in this. These events could easily take place anywhere, and that's what makes it all the more horrifying. The motivations behind it could potentially be that Cat is sick, but then again, there could be other forces at work, given the denouement of the film itself. And I think it's left kind of ambiguous because the only time we see things is through Kat's eyes, and then we see the events through her eyes. We see her as she deteriorates, and then of course through Rose's eyes as she's dealing with hers. But the big thing that I got was that everybody's preoccupation with the religious kind of identity of what's going, who we are when we're at the school, how we behave, the rituals that the rituals that we adhere to, and the things that we believe often blind them to the things that's going on around them, which is why I think no one was able to see what was going on with Cat. And the Cat, ultimately, no one saw Cat at all. And maybe not even herself, because it alludes to things in her family life that never really get resolved. But there's definitely tragedy there. And then, of course, when she hints at because at the beginning of the film, the headmaster, the head priest, is leaving to go to business in Albany, and he won't be there, and he won't be able to see her performance, which is a recital that she puts on, not really the performance that she's talking about. And that's when I had that realization at the end. It was kind of like, oh, they'd been planning it from the get-go, and so there's a lot of questions that are unanswered. And then, of course, not a lot of resolution either. But this one will definitely keep you kind of like I said, it's a slow burn. And I dig that once again, that beautiful minimalist horror where it relies solely on the depth of its characters in order to drive a plot. And it's gorgeously shot against the backdrop against rural New York in the winter when everything is stark and cold and unmoving and almost dead. And I think it adds a lot to what is going on for such a simply shot movie.
Yeah, really being able to rely on its atmosphere and the fact that the method that it uses for storytelling, it's like what Aaron said, it's like oh. But see, that's a sign of a good film is that you're thinking about it afterwards instead of just like a popcorn eater. It's like, okay, well, that's good. And you just kind of go off and forget about it. It's like, your brain's still kind of figuring it out, which is always a good sign.
And I dug the film is somewhat nonlinear, and I've always dug nonlinear storytelling. You got movies like Memento and movies like Pulp Fiction, movies that are told nonlinearly. They add a new kind of a new element, a new way to reveal plot points, in a different order, so that you kind of come at the end point from two different angles. You're like, once both arrive and we realize what's going on, it's like, holy shit. And I dig that stuff. I like nonlinear storytelling, but for this one, like, for example, if you watch Pulp Fiction in order, it actually kind of loses some of its flair. It's kind of like, it's actually not really interesting, which is weird because I've seen the in order cut of Pulp Fiction. Same thing goes for Memento. In Memento, it actually loses a lot of its oomph when you watch it in chronological order. It's like, so these are the events that took place. And it's a very, very basic story. Whereas in this one, I think either way it would work. So seeing it like play out chronologically or play out in the order that it was presented in, I think either one works. And I think that goes to the writing and the characterizations. And of course, I got to give some real props to, and this is what I would give it, because the film itself rests on the performances of Kiernan Shipka and Lucy Boynton, who I thought were absolutely amazing. And I know Emma Roberts is in there, but Emma Roberts annoys me. And she does. I mean, thankfully, she doesn't have a lot of lines in this. That's the big thing on that. And she aggravates me. And yeah, unfortunately, we did just lose Eugene. His internet just died. Hopefully, he'll be back here in just a moment. But we can carry on. But man, Kiernan Shipka, holy shit! And Aaron, when you brought this up when we were talking about her performance in Mad Men as Draper's daughter, was just phenomenal.
Yeah, and she started it from a very young age. I mean, you're talking about a little kid. It's a gamble with a little kid if they're going to be a good actor when they get older. And she not only was decent enough to, stick with the show, but they had main plot lines around her. And she's actually one of those that, like, you almost hate them. They're so good at so many different things.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, she does the singing in there, and she's not bad at that. And I don't even know how old she is, but she's already done more than I have. I'm god awful.
She is 22.
But yeah, she is incredibly talented. And then, like you're talking about the nonlinear fashion on it, it's really odd because they combine them to typically with nonlinear. You sort of see one lean on more than the other. So Pulp Fiction, it's kind of jumping back and forth through point of view. And then with Memento, you're slowly working your way backwards to, they give you the event and then they unveil what happened there. And they do the same thing here, but then they put it from different people's point of view. So you see what is the people around her see, and then you experience her from her point of view, and that starts to answer some questions about why she did this and that, but it still doesn't answer everything. You have to put everything together yourself to make that happen.
Right. I think for anybody who picks up, who hasn't watched it yet, who hasn't seen this one, it didn't get a lot of fanfare as well. Horror usually doesn't. I think it really is captured in its performances, and of course, it'll get you. It's one of those ones that will hit you after the credits have rolled, and you start piecing all the pieces together, and you start trying to answer the questions that weren't answered in the film itself, the things that are left ambiguous. I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and I like the fact that I didn't have to deal with a whole bunch of Emma Roberts, because I swear that girl, I understand that she's related to Julia Roberts, but the girl, I think she can't emote with her eyes is the problem. And
yeah, she's great at playing one of the kind of a yuppie bitch. But
angry,
it's beyond that,
or bitchy, or standoffish, or annoyed. Pretty much any kind of negative one, because with negative reactions or playing a negative enforced character, you pretty much can stare at the, as long as you've got good resting bitch face, you can do whatever you want. And it doesn't require much to just be angry or be aggravated or be annoyed or be frustrated. All of these, they kind of run along the same lines. Unfortunately, when trying to convey anything beyond that, I just look in her eyes, and it's like looking at Tom Cruise. It's just not there. And there's just like, where's this? Whereas if you look at Kiernan, God, that girl is so good. Kiernan and Lucy Boynton really, really sell this movie. Both of them are great, and I think this thing will hit you a little bit harder than you would expect, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, it's definitely a bleak film. And as far as the religious horror goes, I mean, for some people it's not their cup of tea, but it's set in a Catholic school, but it's set in a Catholic school for girls. And while there are religious themes there, they're not the overarching themes of the film itself. The overarching themes is the girls and their journeys through youth. I would say not really coming of age, but I guess the things that we don't talk about when we're growing up.
Dealing with being a teenager, especially in that environment. Well, that's the thing about it, with the fact that, talking about religious horror, is The Exorcist didn't really scare me. I found it interesting, and there are movies along those lines that I find interesting, but they don't kind of put that chill in my spine, whereas, because, I wasn't very religious up through my teenage years, and I became pagan later on. So I've actually oddly find occult movies more interesting in that vein. And because it kind of, your belief system, whether, you've had it and abandoned it or whatever, it kind of lays out what you're going to find emotionally effective. But this, despite that, this is still a hit you right in the gut kind of movie, especially as it gets towards the end and they go from a very cerebral film to one that is very physically aggressive. Hard.
Definitely.
Okay, so we want to know, what is your favorite nonlinear movie? Do you like them or not, and why or why not? You can let us know in the live chat, the comments below, or you can drop us a line at weekinhorror.net.
weekinhorror@gmail.com.
I know, but I want to send it by the website so you can see my pretty biography.
Oh, that's true. Your bio is up on the website. Definitely, you can definitely check out the website at weekinhorror.net, where you can also reach us there through our Gmail, and of course, check out all the kind of cool stuff that we have up there. So we recently did a redux on the website, so I hope you all dig it. All right. We're up to our last one, aren't we?
Yep. I don't know if that's something to celebrate or not.
Wow, I see that I am not alone, in my opinion, on Emma Roberts. Wow, so yeah, that's what it was. So Jinju brings up, need I say anything more than Chanel in Scream Queens? Was there any difference between her character in Scream Queens and her character in American Horror Story Coven? Any at all? Does the girl have any kind of range? The worst is that, given the ensemble piece of Coven, it worked well because that was her character, and you put that alongside, Jessica Lange's character and Sarah Paulson's character and Tessa Farmiga's character and Gabri Sidib. You put her against all that, it works as an ensemble. But when she's trying to play a role outside of that, like when you saw when she was in Freak Show, it doesn't work. Because when I look at her and I see her on screen, it always comes off as disinterested. And that's why she annoys me. So that's pretty much what it is. But I see that Geller Hanavzad says, Emma Roberts' best role was in The Hunt. It did not last long. This is true. She died very early. And that kind of made me happy too. And the George said brings up Memento. Memento was great. Gavlar Hand of Zod brings up Irreversible. Fantastic. And a lot of Pulp Fiction love. Pulp Fiction love from Sir Little Wolf, Raven Darkstar, and Ace Jasper E. Yeah, Pulp Fiction was solid. It was, given, I think, because of its nonlinear storytelling. Definitely. All right. So we do have one more, and let's dive into it. Oh, Angel Rivera brings up The Grudge. Very good. All right. So we've got this one released, our last film tonight, released April 1st, 2016. And it is The Girl in the Photographs. Enjoy the trailer.
Serial killer is doing this photography thing with his victims as an homage to me. This guy knows I'm from Spearfish.
Let's have a party tonight.
You guys from Minneapolis?
No, we're here for a photo shoot.
Tell her I want to take her picture.
Well, okay. All right.
I don't really like my photo being
taken. Like my photo being taken? Hey, Colleen.
Somebody followed me here so he could put that picture in a place where I would find it.
We're gonna look into it. This girl has found all of the photographs.
Has anyone else seen these, or are they just for me?
No body, no crime. To somebody, she's a star. She's the checkout girl. I want this girl.
Why does it have to be Colleen?
So that he can't have her.
Hey!
We
covet what we see every day.
Girl in the photograph, she's someone, isn't she?
There's my kitty. You weren't really thinking about leaving, were you?
I was muted. Sorry about that. So, Girl in the Photographs, directed by Nick Simon, written by Nick Simon, Oz Perkins, Robert Morast, starring Cal Penn, Claudia Lee, Kenny Warmold, Toby Hemingway, Miranda Ray Mayo, Luke Baines, Christy Carlson Romano, Catherine Isabel, Scream Queen Catherine Isabel, and Mitch Pileggi. Mitch Pileggi from X-Files. Yeah, and a little roll in there. Yes, I apologize. I was muted. I muted myself because the dog was barking in the background during the trailer. So, but yeah, okay. So first thing that needs to be brought up about this bad boy, about this particular one, is did something happen with the stream? We're still live.
Yeah, good now.
So I apologize. Are we okay?
They're saying stream crashed. Let me do a refresh and see what I've got on my side. Stream unavailable, suspended for policy violation. You must have got hit for the trailer.
Oh, after it's no longer being streamed, streams are automatically re-enabled. So hang on a sec. Hang on a sec.
You want me to post something in the chat saying stand by?
Yeah, let them know. But this was a good test. That was good.
Full of a night. Actually, a hell of a recording.
Oh, I think we're good. I think we're back up.
It looks like.
Yes, we are back up. Yes, apparently the beast is always watching.
Okay.
Okay. I think we're solid. Okay, so this is interesting. So this was fantastic. And actually, yeah, this was actually really, really good. This is what I wanted to test for. So this is totally off topic, and I know that because the live stream went down, but it still was reading live on my end. So immediately I got an email from YouTube that said, due to a copyright match, your stream was interrupted. Streams are interrupted when copyright content is detected. After copyrighted material is no longer being streamed, streams are automatically re-enabled. All right, so that kind of answers that question. So luckily, because we're not monetizing like that, I'm not terribly concerned about it. And of course, we can always fix this in post, which is like the key thing. But apologies for us dropping out like that. That's a first. But of course, we try new stuff, trying new stuff and trying to figure out what we can do. And apparently, maybe it was all the ones that caught up to us. I'm not sure. But we are going to figure out what went down, and I will dive into the studio and figure out what exactly we got hit for which trailer we got hit for. So man, oh man, that was wild. So back to it because we don't want to run out of time, because we definitely want to dump on this particular movie. But apparently, I guess nobody heard me, so I will run through it again. Really, yes, feckin' YouTube. You're right, Sketch Crasher, absolutely. So The Girl in the Photographs. Directed by Nick Simon, written by Nick Simon, and starring Cal Penn, Claudia Lee, Kenny Warmold, with appearances by Scream Queen Catherine Isabel and the legendary Mitch Pileggi from X-Files. The film essentially centers around a group of, or basically this hot photographer and his friends who go out to shoot a new spread, and the area that they're going to go shoot at is currently being, I guess the area is currently being stalked by what appears to be a serial killer who leaves photographs of his victims on the nearby for this one particular girl in town to find. And the head photographer comes in and sees her, and it's the two stories kind of collide. And then, of course, as Eugene would say, shit gets absolutely fucking real. The one thing I need to point out first about this, The Girl in the Photographs was the last movie. It's marketed as the last movie that Wes Craven produced. The problem is that's not exactly the truth. It's the last movie that Wes Craven executive produced. He was an executive producer on this movie before he passed away. That line that you see in there, a film that Wes Craven would be proud of, I don't think that's necessarily the truth. But it's important to understand the distinction between a producer and an executive producer. Because, you like me and Eugene, people like, like us in the industry, Eugene and I have dealt with them in the past.
Yeah, this is just kind of a chuck it in the bucket movie. I mean, they threw everything at it that was popular at the time, and it, even the format kind of felt like Scream, where they opened up with the famous girl or semi-famous girl, and then everybody gets excited, and then she's just not there for the rest of the time, down to a denim-wearing sharp-faced killer. And it fails to impress because it doesn't have a good, solid feeling. So I was unhappy with it.
I get the idea of why people would think that they could market a movie like this. One, the movie itself is mean. There's not a lot of level characters in it. There's no one really to identify with, and it definitely has a sense. It has a sensation. I guess the kind of the feel of the film is akin to to early Wes Craven, like Last House on the Left, where it's just just a brutal little film that's excessive in its violence, and you don't know who's going to make it out alive. And I get what they were going for on that one, but like I said, that's what the big thing in this is, that executive producers and producers serve wildly different roles on the show. And one second. Oh, there he is. I think Eugene is back. You back?
Okay, can y'all hear me?
There's the man.
Okay, yeah. My internet, I'm kind of hot spotting right now, so I'm keeping the camera off. But my internet just crashed in the house completely. It was just boom. Oh, you got kicked off the internet. So,
well, that's okay. We lost the fucking stream there for a minute. So,
oh yeah, all right. So technical difficulties, all right. Good times.
That's something for us to figure out. See, that's why I wanted to do this test. That's what's important. So Little Wolf says, "Dang, I love Catherine Isabel," and she's essentially the Drew Barrymore in this movie. That's what when Aaron was talking about that formula. She's essentially the Drew Barrymore. She's the Drew Barrymore in Scream. That's what she is. And then of course Elizabeth Sylvester says, "How did you get a copyright strike that fast? Isn't it fair use since you're adding commentary, or is that only for videos posted on YouTube?" I don't know. I'm going to have to check it out. I'm going to have to look into it. Sarcasm says, "That stupid red Ford with the horns never seen was the best acting performance by far." And that's the whole big thing. But first I wanted to dive into this, which is important to understand, because not a lot of people understand the difference between an executive producer and a producer. And that's important to notice because Wes Craven was an executive producer on this and not a producer. And dealing with both is a different animal, as Eugene and I could, we've dealt with them before in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big difference is you do have different types of producers. You have kind of the bottom line and associate producer, co-producers. Then you have just the producer, and in the credits, you'll see them as produced by. And then you have the executive producers. So the executive producers are the ones that they sign the checks, basically. They represent the studio. So the executive producers are the Kathleen Kennedy of the Star Wars, the Kevin Feige from the Marvel movies. They are the top. They're the top. Here's a check. and we need a movie on this date. And a lot of times with executive producers, that's it. And they're like, okay, all right. And then what happens sometimes is they'll throw around executive producer credits to try to bring in like a big name. So
like Wes Craven.
Yeah, so they may have maybe like they're able to get a hold of Wes Craven and like, hey, can we would you be an executive producer? And okay, sure, executive producer. And then he may have just like that's it on it just to put his name on something. Crowdfunders, we use executive producers as like the high tier. If you donate $5,000 to a film, you get an executive producer credit. So it's not necessarily like it's not a very hands-on filmmaking position. It's not most of the time. Then you have the producers. The producers, their sole job is to give the director everything they need to make the film. So the producers are in charge of the logistics, the locations, making sure they're able to, all the roles are cast, making sure the crew is there. Do they need special equipment? The producers are the real hands-on. So you may get an executive producer, Wes Craven, who glanced at a script and maybe connected him with somebody with funding. And then you have the producers that are actually doing what you would think a producer would do on that. And sometimes they'll be kind of like the no-name. You may not know who the producers are themselves. So it's almost like the same thing as in acting. You get the big name actor and then everybody else you've never heard of. The executive producer can sometimes be the big name you would recognize. And then the actual producers, the actual people who are on set, who are watching in post-production are people that you haven't heard of. So that's
Right.
the difference between a producer and an executive producer.
And that's getting Mitch Pileggi's name attached to it because everybody remembers him as Skinner from X-Files. And of course, he worked in a previous Wes Craven film early on called Shocker, in which he was really, really good. One of my favorite early Wes Craven films. And then, of course, Catherine Isabel, attaching her name to it. Catherine Isabel is a scream queen. We first seen in Ginger Snaps and has gone on to do a number of things. And then, of course, Cal Penn as well, who everybody knows from Harold and Kumar, but also from House and his work. But ultimately, and the George said brings it up here real quick. The problem is I didn't see any marketing for this movie, but I did enjoy it. Like JL said, none of the characters are particularly likable, but I don't think they were meant to be. And that's probably true. He said, I didn't see any marketing for this movie, but I did. He says, it was kind of uncomfortable not having a character to identify with, like being at a party where you don't know anyone, just an eerie feeling of not knowing who to trust. And other movies suffer from the same fate as well. It's like the movie Thinner, the adaptation of Stephen King's Thinner, had nobody, that you liked in that movie and nobody that you could root for. I really, honestly, I didn't root for anybody in this one as well. Not even the nice and lovable hometown girl who's just, looking for a way out. Nobody I just didn't care. There was no one I really gave a shit about. And ultimately, that's kind of what drags this movie down is you've got mismarketing. I think you've got false advertising to give you a sense of it. Everything done in order to make what is ultimately a not very good movie, marketable to a wider audience. And honestly, I think this kind of I myself, I'm a bit of a purist. I kind of see, I know it's part of the business. Your movies are made to make money, but I don't think it does the genre any services. When you bank upon the fact that not a lot of people know the difference between an executive producer and a producer. They both have producer in them. They serve wildly different functions. You could say it was produced by Wes Craven. It wasn't. He was an executive producer that serves a different function. So no, he didn't have any creative input in this. The film follows the same kind of formula as Scream did and kind of like plays off of that, but didn't have nearly any of the depth. No likable characters, no final girl that we can root for, nobody that I really care about, and a very bleak ending to be, and of course unnecessarily. But that's the fucked up thing. It says brutally vicious like that. There's some pretty hardcore kills in it, but it doesn't do what movies like Captivity did. Okay, it doesn't do what it doesn't go to those lengths to evoke anything. Overall, it doesn't fire on any cylinders, and that's what annoyed me more because you have such a fantastic setup. Okay. The voyeuristic horror. Voyeuristic horror is scary. The unseen other. is a great narrative trope. The people, the individual that is looking through your window, the person that is stalking you, the person that is like off in the distance and you glimpse of, like Halloween, like Michael Myers, Jamie Lee Curtis, like Laurie sees him kind of like down the street, just standing there looking at her.
Guy living in Alex's attic.
So that works. It's such a good, and you have these guys who are preying on these girls. They're taking photographs of them. They're watching them. They're breaking into their homes and not necessarily grabbing them right then and there. The unseen other is a very scary trope because it's very realistic in that respect, and something that we do need to fear. But the problem was they have this thing, and then it's overblown. It's unrealistic in how effective these guys are in this little small town, or how ineffective the cops are. That's why there's nobody you really want to root for in this. And then because the bad guys, ultimately they're evil, but they're pathetic. The cops are caring but inept, and then the characters are, the good guys, but you don't care about them because most of them are dicks or they're idiots. So.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, that killed me about is with voyeuristic horror, one of the big things that you really generally want to see developed is an intense relationship between the possible victim and the killer / stalker. That doesn't exist in this. There's one encounter. There's not a lot of exchange between them. And I think that while it was created to have two killers where one had the camera and the other was involved in the action, they hurt that by having two people rather than, doing that kind of almost like monogamous stalking routine where, the stalker is obsessed. They wandered too far.
Right. And that's the big thing on this. And the big thing that's very, very important to note. It's a by the numbers horror film. It's easily done and doesn't offer anything new, doesn't bring anything new, and I think uses the worst tactics in order to get in front of horror fans. But ultimately, this is a good demonstration of what is and what is not Wes Craven, which is the biggest thing about this, is that Wes Craven is paramount about Wes Craven. Wes Craven's early horror films and his films that ran through always are connected in some way topically to what is going on in the show, to what is going on in real life. The things that scare us and the things that are realistic, things that are literally ripped out of reality. Even Nightmare on Elm Street was that story, that inspiration was ripped out of reality. That was based on a story based on a report that he had heard that I believe came out of India about a guy who
Cambodians, the Hmong people from Cambodia and a couple other countries called Brugada syndrome.
And I know he'd heard somewhere. I read an interview where he had heard about somebody who died in their sleep.
Yeah, they had been afraid to go to sleep and been avoiding it when they finally did because they said they were going to die. When they finally did, he died in his sleep.
Right.
Some guy.
So he, and even Last House on the Left, the home invasion horror, People Under the Stairs, dealing with these concepts of overt racism in this horrific scenario, and of course gentrification as well. And then you've got even Scream with the meta-analysis of horror and how the genre was changing. Wes Craven was always on top. Serpent in the Rainbow, shocker. These things he's pulled directly from real stories, where then he molds them to fit the horror genre and make them extreme and and deliver some of the best stuff. That's why he's the legend.
Yeah,
this one does not do this. I
was gonna say, somebody that worked with him described him as a mythologist, and he was constantly reading. That's where he got all of this stuff. Is he was constantly taking stuff in, digesting and changing it, and he created mythologies with his stuff because from the way that the scenery was done to tell the story. The show don't tell, to character development, everything. That is why people love getting a hold of his work for sequels. Is he has so much without even generating anything new that you can run with for movie after movie after movie. This one's dead in the water. Nobody gives a damn about seeing these serial killers show up again. I mean, even following the equation on this, they fail.
Right. And that's the big thing. And I think what sets it apart is that every time Wes Craven hit the helm, he always brought something new to the table, something new and something interesting and something compelling. something that draws you in. If you look at the differences between Last House on the Left and Nightmare on Elm Street and Shocker and Serpent in the Rainbow and Scream and everything else he brought, he doesn't tread the same ground twice. And that's the hallmark of a really solid director who always wants to trailblaze and bring new things to the table, bring new things to the fans. This movie is nothing new. And that's what got me. And I was almost like, how dare you? Maybe I'm too much of a purist. But I was like, how dare you attach Craven's name to this in a marketing ploy to draw people to it, knowing full well the role he played, and then turn around and give us something that this is not Craven at all. Craven doesn't retread old ground. He always tries to make it something new.
Yeah, see, I wonder if it's it's like a contract type of thing, because I was like, I want to know how his name got attached to begin with, because obviously shortly he passed afterwards. But was this something that maybe they sold him the idea and then in post-production they changed it so that maybe he had a different idea of what it was supposed to be? Maybe there just happened to be a friend of a friend or somebody that was able to get his name, or they may have even paid him like, hey, if we can just use your name, we'll give you X amount of dollars or something like that for marketing.
It could have been points on the back end, yeah.
Yeah, or something like that. So I'm really kind of curious how they got him. I did want to answer one question real quick from Raven Darkstar, who he asked who is ultimately in charge, the producer or the director. And basically, in the hierarchy of things,
that's a question.
Yeah, that's a question. It's a very good question. So basically, in the hierarchy of things, producers and directors are on the same tier. Typically, what happens is the producer has final say on budget and logistics stuff, while the director has final say on the creativity. So if the director is like, I want to shoot at this bar, and the producer's like, we can't afford this bar, the producer wins. You're not going to shoot. You're going to have to find another location because it's just not in the budget. Versus if you can afford to shoot in both of these bars, then the director can pick creatively, I want this one, and the producer will just go with it. So at that point, the director will have the final say. So logistics, business, producer, creative-wise, director. So that, I hope that answers your question on it. But yeah, I'm gonna have to actually look. I'm gonna have to look back and see how they actually got his name involved, because I'm really kind of curious.
Well, and I meant to look it up and just ran out of time to check and see, what the dating was about as far as illness and passing away, because he may not have been in shape to have as much say. Hell, he may not have been around to have as much say. So, unless an agent or a relative was fighting posthumously to protect the name, then there would have been nobody to stick up.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. He could have been sick towards the very end, maybe not be able to be involved as he wanted to be, and then all of a sudden someone else takes over who's not as familiar with just the horror genre, and they do a paint by the numbers instead.
Yeah. Well, and that's like I said, if this had been just a generic, like, drop in every trope movie and then it had the same ending, I would have been more tolerable, but they didn't try and shake it up at all until the end. Just, not only was it too late, but it was contrary to kind of tradition. So it's like, just shut it down and go home, dude.
not to mention, a lot of mistakes were made in this. There were things, as far as like, everything you've seen, it has been done before. Everything, like, from from revealing of the killers to what's actually going on, and then of course everything was revealed wrong. The lighting was wrong for particular scenes. The reveal of the killers was way too soon. The way that I would say the entire tone of the film shifts very unevenly, and the pace was all off. The pacing was completely off. It goes up, it drops. This film was an absolute mess, and I don't think and obviously I know that horror fans would not judge Wes Craven's name by this, but I think movies like this, even though there are people out there who will dig slasher films and they'll dig any slasher film, and I get that it's completely subjective. Speaking from someone who does, obviously someone who does what we do and someone who works in the industry, movies like this do not do anyone any favors. They don't do the genre any favors, and ultimately take away. If Wes Craven's name had not been attached, maybe a new title and maybe some. I would have done a couple of reshoots and probably done a bit more time in post, because there's a lot that could have been done in post on this in order to make it a lot better. And yeah,
I don't know. I think it would have been painted third.
So Little Wolf says, "No worries. Remember, they are idiots. JL likes Hellraiser 3. I am never going to live that shit down. I am never going to live it down. I'm a fucking Terry Farrell fan. What do you want?" I am a Terry Farrell fan. But yeah, now that we've significantly dumped on this movie, which see it or not, I mean, if you're a horror fan, you may if you love slashers, you may dig it, but know what you're in store for, because this in my opinion, in an opinion that in that Twitter war has been called elitist. I was called a horror elitist in that little Twitter back and forth, who made you the arbiter of what's great? It's like, I'm not the arbiter. I'm just saying, fucking be honest.
Intelligence. That's what I meant.
Good taste.
Years. I don't know, but I will say this. I want to ask the audience, because there's so many better options out there and so many movies that do this better. What is your favorite voyeuristic horror, where the bad guy or the villains are watching from the shadows waiting to strike? What is your favorite voyeuristic horror? Let us know in the comments below, or of course in the live chat here, or at weekinhorror@gmail.com.
I would have to throw in probably The Strangers.
Oh, yeah.
That is since adulthood, that is the only movie that has ever terrified me. And it's because when I watched it, we were living in the boonies, like JL's neighborhood boonies. And like a week or two before, a guy had been going door to door, just like knocking on doors, trying to use phones, just get every excuse in the book to get in the house. Like, I saw The Strangers and I just slept with a shotgun.
So Sir Little Wolf brings up a solid one right there. And Hush. Hush was amazing. Yes. Hush was a badass one. Manhunt. Sarah Velez brings up Manhunter. Fantastic. Rodin LSM brings up 1 Hour Photo.
Ooh, that was a good movie.
That was Robin Williams knocked that one out of the fucking park. Oh, yeah.
That man could do anything well, I swear to God.
Sir Kaz says Dressed to Kill with Donald Sutherland. And the George says Vacancy was really good. I kind of enjoyed Vacancy. I dug it. I did. The idea that, but that combined it not only with voyeurism, but the creepy nature of hotel rooms. You never know who's been in that room before you. You never really know just how clean those sheets are. And obviously what's going on in that hotel with Vacancy made it all the worse. So fantastic stuff in there. And I think Travis Brown says, does Scream count? Not so much a voyeuristic horror. That was more of the straight up meta slasher. But I can see that because, they're watching their victims in that respect. I can get that. But yeah, a lot. I mean, and I would actually put Psycho up in there as well.
I was gonna say Peeping Tom, probably because that's the progenitor there. That's the first slasher.
I really dug, and I think I would have to give some props to Psycho. The idea that someone, obviously the idea that someone is watching you in your intimate moments, and even the person like the proprietor of the motel that you're staying at is super fucking creepy.
Somebody's watching me in the bathroom. God help them. They're the one going to the horror movie.
Oh, Rear Window. Wrote it now saying Rear Window.
Yep.
Oh, Hitchcock. Absolutely. Fantastic. All right. Well, Eugene, it is about that time. What do you think?
It is that time. So go ahead and get your Google fingers ready.
It's trivia time.
And let's see, JL, what are they playing for?
Today or tonight, we're giving away an official Week in Horror limited edition number 5 t-shirt. That is going live here shortly. As soon as I get the final image to transpose, and you guys will see it. And I didn't have it available now because the image that we had, I just wasn't able to put up one that could effectively convey it. But that image is done, and it has been finalized. I just need a final image that I can transpose over to the t-shirts. But a limited edition official Week in Horror shirt number 5 is going up. The brand new one. I don't want to spoil it, but you are getting one of those. And as soon as it is available, this should be available shortly, and those should be going out. So like Angel won one last week, and you should be winning one, and you'll win this one as well. Hopefully this will get out soon. So I just didn't have an official one that I could actually put up and show. So hopefully those will be out quick. But a limited edition shirt number 5. This will be the second one going out before they're available to buy.
All right. The question is...
Get ready. Get ready.
What was the first film that legendary horror directors Sean S. Cunningham and Wes Craven worked on together? So, what was the first film that legendary horror directors Sean S. Cunningham and Wes Craven worked on together? The first one to comment below with the correct answer wins.
All right. See, there's Google. Oh, Shinju brought up 13 cameras. 13 cameras was a good one as well. And so was, 13 cameras and 14 cameras, both of them. Oh, dang.
Oh, that was quick.
That was quick. Holy shit. So I've got, I'm looking at the live chat right now, and I've got, and the George said is first. Can I get a confirmation on that?
I got and the George said also. By like a millisecond.
That actually may have come down to the lag. That may have come down to the lag on that one. But yes, you are correct. And the George said, I lost my screen there for a second. And the George said, yes, it was Together was the first movie that Sean S. Cunningham and Wes Craven worked on together. There's an interesting story behind that, which is actually kind of cool. But he beat Charlie Welch by like moments. I think that may have actually been a lag thing. It may have been. Some other guesses there was Going to Pieces. Nope, sorry, Sarah Velez. Skid Scratch because Debbie Does Dallas. Travis Brown. Last House on the Left was the second movie they worked together on. Same with Angel Rivera said Last House on the Left as well. So did Sarcasm. But yes, very, very close on that one. The interesting story in that is that Together was not a horror movie. Together was what's called a white coater. And essentially, at that time, Sean S. Cunningham got into the film business by doing what were called white coater films. White coater films were essentially prawns disguised as sexual education movies. So sexual education movies that were actually prawns in disguise, and they were really, really big overseas because of censorship laws. If the movie was a prawn, then you couldn't do anything. Then it was hard to market, and a lot of countries wouldn't take them in because of censorship laws. But if you put someone with a white coat in it and turned it into an educational movie, then you could sell it, and these things became hot commodities. Sean S. Cunningham created one called The Art of Marriage, which was so successful it netted him $100,000, and he took $50,000 and opened up his first office, and then went to make a second movie. And he was looking for someone for help on that. And a young Wes Craven, who was kind of like desperate for work at the time, he brought him in to simply sequence the dailies. To basically do the sequencing on the dailies every day, and then upgraded him to the film's editor. And they did the movie Together, which is essentially a remake of Cunningham's The Art of Marriage. That movie was Together was successful enough that Hallmark Distribution wanted them to do a scary movie. He was like, hey, can you guys do a scary movie for us? We're going to give you $90,000 to do a scary movie. And he was like, you got it. And Wes Craven and him teamed up for Last House on the Left. Cunningham produced and Wes Craven directed. Fantastic stuff. It's really, really weird. It's just a crazy little story how these two legends found each other, in the industry, and then went on to do the things that they did. Sean S. Cunningham then, came out Friday the 13th, and of course, Craven with Nightmare on Elm Street. But yeah, that's how they got together for Last House on the Left. Was the white coder called Together. Congratulations to and the George said we will get that shirt printed and out to you ASAP, and that will be up on the store for everybody's purchase very, very soon.
All right. And that will bring another episode of Weekend Horror to a close. Thank you all so much for listening. We truly hope you enjoyed the show. Join us next week when we look back at the lo-fi monster horror Super Croc, the polarizing remake of Pet Sematary, the insane genius of Frank Henenlotter's Basket Case, and the German ghost horror Grave Secrets. We'd like to send a special shout out to all our amazing patrons who continue to help us make Weekend Horror the incredible success it has become. Thank you all so much. Be sure to stop by Joshua Olsen's store, www.badsamurai.store. He does all our amazing artwork for the show, and his designs are incredible. For more horror fun, be sure to follow us on the socials, where you will get the daily splatter right to your feeds, and at Digital Darkness, our new gaming channel hosted by Alien X Gaming. Please comment, like, subscribe, and smash that bell as if you're someone's #1 fan for all the latest updates for the show. Those interactions really help us to appease the insatiable hunger of our dark god algorithm. And lastly, if you love what we do here, and you would like and are able to support our production, you can through our Patreon. We have tiers as low as $1 a month. That's cheaper than a Walmart bin Uwe Bolls film. Higher tiers get early and special After Dark access, bonus content, monthly horror movies, and can even join us as special judges for our bloodbath debates.
I'm going to step in there real quick. Don't forget, all of our patrons, I sent out the messages. The Bloodbath and the After Dark are this weekend. I'll send out those links to those who have access to those. But if you are ready, let us know. Throw us a message, weekinhorror@gmail.com, or on the Discord in the Patreon room. Just let us know if you'll be attending, and then we'll open up and get everybody out there. So those are coming up this weekend. That message is in the Discord. So if you're in the if you're a patron and you're not on the Discord, be sure to join so that we can get those messages directly to you.
But if Patreon is not your modus operandi, you can always support us directly through our PayPal. Links to everything, including our Discord community, where you can find film recommendations, trailers, trivia games, horror watch parties, and even interact directly with us, are in the description. As always, sharing this show with the fans in your local horror community is the absolute best way to help us further our goals of global horror domination. Thank you all for being the greatest audience a podcast could have. I'm Aaron Reese.
I'm JL.
And I'm Eugene.
We'll see you next week, and as always, stay scared.